the research question. Can example source code be used directly as tutorials to effectively tutor novice programmers in a development environment? So the research objectives that I came up with are these. Can we comfortably merge learning from examples and the practice of programming by doing as a practical, pedagogical, or teaching technique to learn programming? Also, I'll be checking to see how many ways we can present source code wholly and partially, that's per keyword line function called block of code, in such a way that the exposed subject understands the use of the C programming language. So these two objectives support the main research question. What is the significance of this project? It serves to extend on previous approaches of learning by example, and it does so by incorporating practice and the use of example in a very user-friendly synthesis. Our approach will effectively foster learning the semantics of the C programming language. The semantics is the meanings of some of the constructs in the C programming language. Now, the audience here today, well, except for some guests, should, I believe, understand what is C programming. Should have been exposed to it. For those of you lost, C programming is the language used to create programs for the company. Another significance is if this works out, that imagine teachers being able to upload tutorials that is working code to a learning object repository where students may be able to access these example-based tutorials to step through, manipulate, and run in one environment. So the methodology, and what I had to do was do a literature review to see the state of current studies in my research area, and try to find tools that try a similar approach and see how mine fitted. Design of experiments. Based on my literature review, I did an iterative development of a prototypical tool that is CSmart. Then there's design of the testing instruments, design of evaluation criteria. There's a pilot study to test or to evaluate the concept of CSmart. Then there's data collection and analysis. And after this pilot test, I would continue to do a formal test and then final data collection analysis. Now, looking at the design of the tool, there are four major points or concepts. These are using example source code as learning objects. Now imagine taking source code just as this, valid source code you can comment and compile, run as a program, and parsing that into a more user-friendly presentation that would give you a better understanding of what the code is doing. So Clark and Meyer believe that worked examples are the most powerful methods you can use to build cognitive skills, and they're popular with learners. So there's some studies here that really back the use of examples in learning programming. WebEx is a tool, a web-based tool, that tries to explore example code. However, they did not go in depth as I did by providing animations and going through step by step. They only highlighted comments trying to explain lines of code. So the next feature is line-by-line explanation of examples. Previous research in this area, they try to run the whole code and show visualization for that. My approach is different, where I go line by line, and what's very was very important, and the study showed that novices tend to understand code via a line-by-line approach as opposed to understanding code as a whole. So that was a major back-end for me using that technique, which hasn't been used, or at least I haven't found any research for that. Also, with the line-by-line explanation of examples, I incorporate the multimedia, contiguity, and segmenting principles provided by Clark and Meyer, which are applied to explain lines of code visually and textually. Also, another feature is a didactic, segmented tutoring and learning by doing. What this basically means is that segments of code are dictated to the user to type out. So this forces the user to do the actual programming, and they learn by doing. And we have evidence here, backing here, that more learning by doing is needed, as Dr. Alan Leslie writes in his work in the past 2 decades. And tutorial guidance allows an extremely effective style of learning by doing. So the dictation and the learning by doing, helps with learning. And go to the next feature, which is tutoring from .c files or coded files directly, and program creation feedback. Now, we want an environment that has this feature in one place. So there's no cognitive overhead of trying to go to another program, another compiler to make the program. So tutorials are created directly from valid C files, and also visuals are dynamically generated based on code, which I'll show you in a second. Elliot is a tool that was close in terms of algorithm animations in C. However, what their drawback is that you had to write specific code, Elliot C code. Mine is different. You don't alter the C code. It's just standard C code. No modifications to show certain explanations or animations. And the tool also supports program creation feedback, which is when the user goes through a tutorial, they can run the code to see what happens, how this program that is created, what it does. So this is the visual idea, where these lines were stepped through before, and the user is currently at this line, where they're instructed to type out x equals 7, which in programming terms, x is assigned 7. And this line here explains what is going on here. And based on this line, there's a visual, there's an engine that reads every code and tries to give an appropriate visualization. So after creating a prototype, the design of the experiment was done whereby a random sample of 10 first-year computer science students were chosen who had a background in JavaScript. And they were asked firstly to describe in their own words, what they saw in specific visualizations that were trying to teach a concept. For example, printf, or for example, showing text to screen. I had a visualization, and they had to figure out what's really happening. So, also, there's to be a test of participants' current knowledge in programming. Then 6 separate tutorials of programming concepts were introduced sequentially. Users then rated their own understanding of these tutorials, and users were then asked to write